religious people seek to destroy the product of the mind. The Masons teach that whatever man reasons is acceptable behavior is acceptable behavior. As we've seen, the Masons teach that man can't have religion telling him what he can or cannot do, what his mind tells him what he wants to do. Mr. Hutchins continues, Hiram is killed at the east gate by a blow to the head, the seat of the intellect. So here in the symbolic story about the murder of Hiram Abiff, religion kills mankind by a blow to the head where man's ability to reason is contained. The head is where man's brain is, where man is able to use his reason to decide for himself what he wants to do. Mr. Hutchins amplifies his thoughts about religion and government a little later in his book. He wrote this on page 287. The tiara and crown are the object of discourse. The crown represents all those kings and emperors who have usurped or abused power, reigned for themselves and not the people, and robbed the people of their liberty. Now, he is not talking about the liberty of the people in America, for instance. He's talking about the governments that have robbed the people of their liberty to make their own decisions about right and wrong. The people create government to protect their property, their life, and their liberty by exercising their God-given right to protect themselves. But here the good doctor says that governments deprive mankind of the ability to enjoy someone else's property or someone else's wife or someone else's liberty. Dr. Hutchins continues, the tiara is not a symbol of any particular religion or creed, but of the patron of ignorance and ally of despotism, which in every age has made dupes of men and enslaved humanity through fear and superstition. So religion has enslaved men through fear and superstition. Albert Pike agreed. He wrote this on page 19 of his book entitled Agenda. The crown itself is but a symbol, and royalty is but the most common type of tyranny. I want you to notice something. I am not making any of this up. These comments are coming directly from high-ranking Masonic sources. I hope that you are noticing that I have been carefully documenting my material directly from Masonic sources. If I was wrong in my comments, I could be sued by the Masons, but they are strangely silent, and I believe they know that I am right. Albert Pike is, as I said, another 33rd degree Mason, and he agreed with Rex Hutchins. In this book entitled Agenda, we've quoted before, but I've never shown you a slide of it, Pike wrote this: men are good. Evil institutions alone have made them bad. And it is the duty of Masonry and of every knight to aid in leading them back to the truth. The evil institutions that have made men bad are the government and the church. And we have seen that Masons take oaths to destroy the government and the church. And in summary, I'd like to show you that this statement was correct. Mr. Pike wrote this in his book called Legenda. As Masons, we deny the right of any church or pontiff or council to prescribe to men what they shall believe. Armed with the doctrines of Masonry, we war incessantly against these ancient enemies of the truth, against spiritual tyranny, intolerance, fanaticism, and superstition. This thought that Hiram was not a single man, but a symbol of all of mankind, is repeated on page 73 of Rex's book. This is what he wrote. The Master Hiram is the symbol of intelligence, liberty, and truth. And the assassins are the symbols of tyranny, ignorance, and intolerance and fanaticism. So the Masons believe that after they destroy religion, they'll be free to make their own decisions about everything. This position was clarified by Mr. Street in his book on Masonry. Hence, Masons everywhere are devoted to the doctrines of freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and freedom of action. So we can see that the Masons believe in the lie of Lucifer, that they shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. All they have to do is destroy religion. And if author John Robinson is right, we can know exactly where it is in their initiation ceremonies that the Masons take an oath to destroy religion. This is John Robinson's book entitled A Pilgrim's Path. I had the privilege of meeting Mr. Robinson in Florida, Tampa, Florida, during a televised debate between the two of us as we took the opposite sides on the issue of Freemasonry. Mr. Robinson also wrote this book, his first book, entitled Born in Blood, and was touring the country talking about it. The Masons do not know how or when they were formed, so Mr. Robinson attempted to prove that their order was connected to the Knights Templar back to 1307. The Masons liked his book, so he was touring the country speaking primarily to Masonic lodges when the television program in Tampa called me to debate him. I agreed to do so, and we went on the air. Mr. Robinson privately admitted to me that he was not a member of the Masonic Lodge, but apparently felt that their claims were of merit. He promised me that he would read my book entitled The New World Order, and I know that he did because he mentions that he read it in his second book. But it is quite apparent that he did not believe my documentation from the Masonic sources, so he wrote his second book to answer all of us critics with what he considered to be the truth of the Masonic Lodge. In that book, on pages 102 and 107, he tells the reader a great deal about the 30th degree initiation ceremony. This is what he says, and remember as we read this, what both Albert Pike and Rex Hutchins told us in their books, that the Masons are out to destroy religion, property, and law. Mr. Robinson tells us, in the southern jurisdiction 30th degree, the candidate is led into a tomb and 3 skulls on display. The skull on the left wears a crown, the one in the center bears a laurel wreath, and the third wears a papal tiara. The skull bearing the wreath of the hero is Jacques de Molay. We'll talk about him later. The skull with the crown represents Philip IV, a secular tyrant, while the third represents Clement V, a religious tyrant. The candidate is then told that he should always oppose tyranny in whatever form, whether it emanates from a government or from a religion. At another point in the 30th degree, the candidate recites an oath that includes the vow to strive unceasingly for the happiness of fellow beings, for the propagation of light. And here Mr. Robinson interprets light to mean knowledge, and for the overthrow of superstition, fanaticism, imposture, and intolerance. We have seen that the Masons consider tyranny to be the moral absolutes of God. So even Mr. Robinson was not able to see the truth that when the Masons say they are opposed to tyranny, they are opposed to the moral absolutes of God. They conceal their truths from people like Mr. Robinson so that he believes the words and does not look past the words to their concealed meaning, as Mr. Pike said he must to understand the coded words. So it is at the 30th degree that the Mason takes an oath to destroy religion. The Masons intentionally conceal that truth so that Mr. Robinson and the observer like Mr. Robinson thinks he is taking an oath to resist the tyranny of such people as Adolf Hitler and Saddam Hussein. But in truth, he is taking an oath to destroy Christianity. The fact that he was not able to see that in the words he mouthed during the oath is not the fault of the Masons. They told him that he would have to read between the lines to figure out the coded and concealed language. They told the Mason, but they know that most of them won't be able to figure it out. And apparently, Mr. Robinson was not able to see through the veil. Now let me return to my discussion of the Masonic ritual. We will see another connection between the Masons and the head of mankind a little later. But the Masons are not the only ones to state that law, property, and religion killed mankind. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky wrote in her book entitled The Secret Doctrine, the Elohim, meaning the triune God of the Bible, also feared the knowledge of good and evil for Adam, and therefore are shown as expelling him from Eden and killing him spiritually. This is almost the same thought presented by the Masons. So what we have been examining is that the Masons, the New Agers, and others are out to simply destroy law, religion, and property. And it is important to this exposition to show you that these are the same goals of the communists. As I said, Karl Marx, the so-called father of communism, wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848. This book called for the abolition of at least the family, all civilization, all religion. Marx wanted to abolish private property and nationalism. This is what Mr. Marx said about the family. Abolition of the family. Even the most radical flare up at this infamous proposal of the communists. The claptrap about the family, about the hallowed correlation of the parent and child, becomes all the more disgusting. This is what Karl Marx wrote about the need to abolish religion. The abolition of religion as the illusory happiness of man is a demand for their real happiness. We must war against all prevailing ideas of religion, of the state, of country, of patriotism. The idea of God is the keynote of perverted civilization. It must be destroyed. What? The idea of God as the keystone of perverted civilization. And this is what he wrote about the need to change the existing order of things. The communists openly declare that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. If you overthrow all existing social conditions, you must replace them with some new social conditions, and these new social conditions are called the New World Order. There are some other well-known individuals with connections between communism and Masonry. One of these is Daniel Ortega, the recent head of the Nicaraguan government. He gave an interview to Playboy magazine in which he made these revealing statements. The man who headed the Augusto Sandino Masonic Lodge would give us lectures about politics. That place played an important role in my political development. Daniel Ortega was a communist, and he admits that the head of one of the Masonic lodges taught him communism. And the reason that he taught him that was that Augusto Sandino, the man that the Masonic Lodge was named after, was a communist. He was the founder of the Sandinista communist movement in Nicaragua. And Augusto Sandino was also a Mason. That is why they named a lodge after him in Nicaragua. But we don't have to worry about this example of another connection between communism and Masonry. Playboy magazine doesn't believe there is a connection between Masonry and communism. The Playboy interviewer said, "It's hard to believe that a Masonic lodge was a hotbed of revolution." So they don't believe it. And this is the problem of the media all over the world. They simply will not believe the evidence, even after they hear it themselves from a communist like Ortega. The abolition of all social conditions is also the goal of the Illuminati. These are the goals of the Masons, and these are the goals of the communists. Other communists spoke out against the ordered ideas of Christianity. This is Nikolai Lenin, the so-called father of Russian communists. He wrote these thoughts in many of his writings. Atheism is an integral part of Marxism. Marxism is materialism. We must combat religion. We, of course, say that we do not believe in God. We do not believe in eternal morality. That is moral. That serves the destruction of the old society. So Lenin also said that religion must be destroyed before they create the new society called the New World Order. Lenin continued, everything is moral, which is necessary for the annihilation of the old exploiting social order. Religion is a kind of spiritual intoxicant in which the slaves of capital drown their humanity and blunt their desire for human experience. We, meaning we communists, shall also preach a scientific philosophy. We must fight against the inconsistencies of the Christians. So as we are starting to see, the New World Order is based on the desires of the communists. I shall continue that thought during the next session.